Hi there, it's Paula Kensington here, and I've got lots on my mind that I wanted to share with you. And I guess on the back of last week's conversation that I had in the Future Finance Thinkers Hub, it's really about trying to understand where finance professionals, CFOs, and business leaders, where we're at, where our thinking is at, and I've just been reflecting on that over the last few days and went back to a survey that I put out in CFO Conversations in January of this year. And I asked, what's on the CFO's agenda? And I guess unsurprisingly, 44% said disrupted business models, and 31% said the new reporting requirements. And so that's kind of today has been also a reflection of mine, because here in Australia, the Senate has reviewed the climate mandated reporting bill and passed things back down to the lower house to have another review of. But basically, it's really Australian standards saying that we have to report in our sustainability report against the two measures in the climate. So not only the 1.5 degree warming temperatures from the Paris 2015 agreement, but also to choose another scenario that's worse than that. And so looking at what would it be in our business, what would be the impact in our business if climate temperature increased by 2.5 or 3%. And I think if you look at some of the science and some of the narrative at the moment, is that there's only a 14% chance that we'll even be able to limit to 1.5 degrees temperature globally unless we make some huge shifts in the way that we run our businesses and how we run our lives across the world. So, I think those two measures is like, how does the impact of 1.5 degrees impact my business, and what impact does my business have on that, and also then a worse climate target scenario. I don't even want to think about what the catastrophic consequences are from a 3 degree increase in sea temperatures and in global temperature. But let's from a finance perspective and a compliance perspective, actually just say, well, we've got to report what that might mean to my business. So it got me thinking, where's the CFO's head at right now? I think I'm getting a sense of just in total overwhelm, maybe not knowing what to do or not having the tools to be able to do what I need to do, having lots of conversations over the last few months with major international players. And the CFO says, we're still working out how to price in carbon on a SKU basis. So there's so much that we have to do, and with mandated reporting for large entities, effective here in Australia from the 1st of January, most likely 2025. Like, where are we? How ready are we? Are we already working with consultants? Are we already having sleepless nights about not only the impact we're having, but actually how we're going to report that? So, I'm just curious as to where's people's thinking at. And some of the conversations I've been having this year is around, how do we think about sustainability? So not only, I think of it like a pyramid. So at the bottom is like the compliance level, and are we being compliant? But then going beyond that, are we actually compliant and starting to reduce our usage, reduce our impact, and become more efficient and sort of get into that optimized position? And then beyond that, are we actually being now more strategic? Are we actually seeing changing in our business models actually as a competitive advantage over those businesses that aren't? So we could actually really drive not only the right behaviors to save the planet, but actually to drive business forward and be strategic about that. And then at the top of the pyramid is around being purposeful, and are we actually delivering way beyond net zero and actually delivering to regenerate, to improve the lives and livelihoods of people on the planet by being purposefully driven, and reaching those maximum thresholds. So this is what's on my mind, and I've got a template I wanted to share with you here. Just a simplistic template from how do I think about the general requirements of Australian reporting standards. And how do we think about each of these pillars? So the governance pillar, our strategy pillar, our risk management pillar, and our metrics and targets. So, from a very simplistic sense, this is what we have to achieve within our business. I've got 20 questions on each of these pillars. For example, under risk management, I've created some questions for us as CFOs to think about. What have I got to actually report against here? So under risk management, describe a recent example where we've had to adjust our risk management strategy in a response to a climate-related finding. Another question is, what are the key metrics for measuring the impact of climate-related risks to our operations? What that might mean is, how do we look at our energy use? How do we think about our water use? What are the disruptions in our supply chain? What are those key metrics? And then another good question to ask ourselves is, how do we prioritise actions that are going to mitigate significant climate-related risks? And let us not forget that carbon is not the only risk here. We've got land use and water use, and there's other greenhouse gases in the mix on GHG as well. But it goes beyond just carbon related. So, are we doing enough? Are we thinking about this with enough energy? And do we need some help? And I'm a CFO. I'm also passionate about getting beyond net zero, let alone getting compliant. But how do we get beyond net zero? Start to optimize and start to think about sustainability as a strategic initiative. And I've also then have been building up this climate resilience framework, which I would be very happy to share with you. So I know there's a lot here to unpack, but if you're in overwhelm, if you're in that I don't know what to do, then as a CFO, let's reach out to each other. I'm happy to share any of those questions with you if you think that might be of use. I'm also organising a face-to-face CFO lunch in October, November this year in Sydney, and would love to have 10 CFOs to actually, under the Chatham House rules, actually say, well, what are we struggling with, and what are some of the questions that we need to ask ourselves? So I'm happy to hear from you if that's of interest as well. But I'm going to spend the next 3 months of what's left of 2024 really starting to share with you the thinking. The last 6 months has really been about introducing that systems thinking, and how do we think about shifting? What is the shift in global risks over this next 2-year period, this next 10-year period, just to start to actually help support CFOs that need supporting. We can't all go to the Big Four, and we might not want to either. So I'm here to help close the gap, support, and to sort of drive our thinking forward on how we might respond, at least in the first instance, to compliance. And this is, as I say, something that is now here right on our doorsteps. Even if we're a small business, even if we're a SME that might be in that 3-year period to report, we're going to have to think about this before then, because we're in someone else's supply chain. We're going to become someone else's problem, and whether that's our customer or our suppliers. If we're in someone else's value chain, we're going to then start getting asked the questions around what are our impacts and how do we think about sustainability in our business. So it's arriving for everybody, which is a good thing, I think. We need to have a planet that we want to save, and we all take responsibility for that. I would hate to think in 50 years' time, someone said, well, you knew something was happening here, why didn't you do something about it? So that's my message. And on this Monday morning, hopefully it spurs you into action, but reach out, come and join a Future Finance Thinkers Lab conversation, or let me know if I can help you in any way. I'd love to have a conversation.